I would like to notify the board that I would like to consider having a board member censored. And I'm bringing it to the attention because I feel like it takes place offline, and I want to be very candid and transparent about what I believe is happening. Francis, I'll provide you with notes so that you don't have to take all of this down right now, but I think that there have been a series of incidents that I believe are outside our code of conduct, and especially outside of our recent motion for civility. And there's a consistent and habitual behavior that is attacking, it's misleading, and it's misrepresenting information to this board and for the board. As you know, I routinely review meeting notes from every single meeting. I provide Francis back with any comments, and I always copy the board because I want to be, open and transparent. People shouldn't have to go figure out what changes were made in the minutes. And I also do that on issues when they come up in the board in various committee meetings and there's something to be followed up with. I will routinely reach out to somebody and ask for that information. Yep. So in the September meeting minutes, there were a number of occasions where our stakeholders were misrepresented in what they said, and they were blatant. And so I pulled some of those up and I copied the board on those comments. So for instance, Patty, who I don't personally know, but she comes to the meetings and she's been on, she made a comment, and the way it was reflected in the minutes was that she expressed concern about people attending the meeting, although they don't reside in the area. That is not what she said. And so I put in what she actually said, and I also indicated, you don't need to quote it. It's just trying to get the context accurate. What she actually said is completely counter to what she was quoted as saying. Assad, who is, from Porter Ranch, one of the Porter Ranch board members, he had said, if people recall, he was talking about the fact that, as board members, as people that are out in the public, you're open to being name called. It's a part of what goes on with being a board member, and our job is to listen. And the way it got captured was that, he works for Public Works and he has zero tolerance for name calling. That's just not what he said. And so, and then the line about Gibson that Abby actually had asked for clarity. And I felt that Gibson's line was just important because it gave a very specific example to ensure that we were clear. But there are meeting minutes that are handed out. Some of us, all of us read them. We provide information back. I send this note out, and this is the response that I get from the board member. This is so bogus. Patty can say anything she wants, just like the rest of the WVPA people. You know that I never said that, so why would you want to make it an issue? I don't even know what she's referring to because I didn't name them, nor did Patty. Let me guess, it's obvious that you align with their efforts to get me to quit or be censored. You're not fooling anyone. That's the response I get to ensure that our meeting minutes are accurate. And I bring this up because the whole reason why we had to revisit the August minutes is because there were errors made in those minutes. And this isn't Frances, who is, she has a huge job trying to capture all of this information. She does an amazing job of recapping those minutes, and then we go in and read them. And if you guys recall, we approved the minutes. I had gone through them. I gave my notes. I copied the board on them. At the meeting, we approved it. And Frances says, thank you, Kelly. Thank you to this other board member. Well, I never saw any notes from the other board member. I'm guessing nobody else saw any notes from the other board member. So we just approved meeting minutes that we don't know that we approved. So after the meeting, I asked Frances to please forward me the minutes so that I could at least be comfortable with what I approved. And so from that, I sent a note back out saying there were some inaccuracies. I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying there are some inaccuracies that are there. We should probably take a look and make sure that they're reflected properly. The response comes back, oops, there was a mistake. That Lorraine Lindquist was not the name. I made a mistake. In the future, I'll pass my corrections by Kelly and Rana. I've never asked anybody to pass their corrections by me. But that wasn't the case. The issue is she's saying everything else looks great. Well, that's not true. And so it requires that I go back in, reread the minutes. I go to the recordings because they're record of our minutes. Like, this is a representation of us as board members, and people's words are being manipulated. You know, and so these are all the things that I had indicated that were troublesome. And in those August notes, I had said, in the future, could you please copy the entire board so that we have visibility to the changes that are being requested? We have that right when they're 10 pages long to be able to be clear what changes are being requested. I also asked that I felt it was not our role to identify stakeholders, because one of the things that happened is like this Enrique. Again, I apologize. I don't know these people personally, but Enrique was all of a sudden identified as somebody from the West Valley People's Alliance. He did not identify himself that way. I listened to the recording. It's not our role to change what people say. So that's of recent. The fact that we're having to go back and look through these notes, these minutes to ensure. So previously, when that whole John Lee motion was going on, the first time it was raised and there was question as to what documents existed, I had said before our meeting, hey, you know, I know that you had mentioned you had something. Could you please forward? I was hoping to read prior to the meeting. And this is what I get back. Dear Kelly, and anyone else who is determined to see our councilman removed for the sake of our political agenda. Mind you, and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read it, but you're more than welcome to read it. Strong arm campaign of these national community activist groups. I don't even know what they're talking about, you know. And then at the meeting, there was question. So I did not, in the August meeting, there was a note that says 89% of the people that spoke were from the West Valley People's Alliance. It's just not factually correct. I didn't change it because that was the statement that was made, but it is not an accurate statement. It was 6 people of 31 who spoke. It was 6 people of 80 people who attended as attendees. It's just not accurate information. And then I get, because I say that in the meeting, I'm equally insulted that you apparently think that our stakeholders include national political activist organizations, blah, 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 blah. So I am asking that we take into consideration censoring somebody, one, because I think that the tone and the aggressive nature is inappropriate to speak to anybody, a board member or a stakeholder. Right. But the bigger issue to me is this consistent habitual desire to mislead and misinform in the information that we are giving out. We are held accountable and to be transparent, and this is not acceptable.